And do you have a smart dishwasher?
No. I very rarely use my dishwasher.
I'm a big user of the dishwasher.
I believe in them.
You do?
Like, I know they work. I know how they work.
Is that right?
I know that when you close it and turn it on, a little leprechaun? What the fuck's a leprechaun? A little leprechaun jumps in there, and the leprechaun just cleans all your dishes, and he just trots back into his little cave, and that's it.
I like that.
Hangs out at the end of the rainbow. You can ride him. He's got a horn.
Quiet, please.
I mean, look, Rule 34, right? I'm sure somewhere somebody has a dressed up animation or a real act or some AI of a leprechaun fucking unicorn. Somewhere it happened.
4,
And that's what gave us the leprechaun.
2.
The Apple Company presents a truly terrible podcast. Welcome to Nonsense, episode number 43. I'm Jeff Parker.
And I'm Stu Little.
This is our take on the week's business, tech, and entertainment headlines. This time, we'll look at high-speed rail California style.
Where it goes really fast?
Yes, it does. It's worldwide Howl at the Moon night. It's not just about having your fill of pre-Halloween unnerving goose flesh. It's actually about animal welfare, specifically that of the wolf, the non-domesticated defender of the wild. Some peg wolves as pests and wild, dangerous beasts, but they're actually highly intelligent, intricate creatures with evidence of existence that dates back as far as 1.5 million years.
Unnerving goose flesh? What the fuck does that mean?
Do you know what goose flesh is?
No.
Do you know
get goosebumps?
Yeah, goosebumps.
Oh, I've never heard it called goose flesh.
Parts of the world call that goose flesh.
Really? What parts?
Yeah.
Myanmar?
Yes, Myanmar.
And Libya?
Specifically Myanmar and Libya.
Libya and parts of the United States. It has a high, the Venn diagram is almost perfectly lined up with the imperial unit system. People learn something on this show every day.
Not every day, no. How's your week going?
So far, so good. Earlier this week, there was a multicultural potluck at my son's school. And of course, if there's food involved, I feel like I must be involved.
You must go above and beyond.
Usually on the consumption side, but I decided I would work on the provider side this time.
Okay.
And I was like, how do I work ribs into a multicultural potluck day? And I successfully did. I made 9 racks of ribs. I had about 33, 34 pounds of pork.
How do you make 9 racks of ribs?
So the upper bound on that is the number that I could fit on my extra large big green egg. When I put it all together at 5:30 in the morning, I'm like, man, I don't think there's going to be enough airflow. These things actually might not cook.
Right.
They did. They cooked great. It is truly the upper bound. I'm not sure I could fit one more rack on there. Yeah. The next step is I need to buy one of those giant offset smokers and really piss off all my neighbors.
And that's where we're heading, isn't it?
Oh, without a doubt. Yeah. No, my friends are already sending me links. The last one,
of course they are.
The last one was this offset that said, quote, you can make 6 to 8 briskets on it at a time. And they're like, do you think this is enough? You think you got enough room there?
You didn't want the big one?
You can get like 1,000 gallon smokers, 2 of them on a trailer. I kind of want to buy one. Here's the thing that's crazy. There are like 200 people at this potluck. I had 8 bones per rack. So, 70 some ribs gone in 20 minutes. I could not slice them fast enough.
Sure.
And here's the thing. People are like, oh, you're really committed. You get up at 5 in the morning. It's lovely at 5 in the morning. There's nobody there.
Yeah, I love getting up early.
My kids are asleep. There's smoke billowing down to my neighbor's house who hates the smell of smoke. I'm desperately trying to stop that by putting up fans, and the wind is like, I don't fucking care about your fans. It's just blowing it right into their house.
That's a cute fan you got there. So
it's a cute fan.
That's what the wind says.
Anyway, that was my week. How about you?
Getting ready for Halloween coming up, and I live in a neighborhood where most of the young kids have moved away.
Yeah.
So we have to step up our game to get any sort of quantity of trick-or-treaters to come by. It used to be we'd give away the mini candy bars, and then we'd get them, and we'd give them away 2 or 3 so that they talk, the kids talk, and they go, go over there, you get 2 or 3 of the mini candy bars. Eventually we had to move to the big candy bars.
Okay.
And last year, to get the kids, we gave away colored TVs.
Color TVs. None of those shitty black and white TVs. No. But I love that you're actually giving away color tube TVs.
We have to dial up our game to get anyone to come here. This year, I think we're doing color TVs and a couch.
Are you the Oprah of the neighborhood?
Everybody in the neighborhood gives away ridiculous things because you want to see the little kids. They're adorable. They're cute, and they just
do your neighbors give away Katsuya? Because point me towards that house. I want to go to the house that gives away Katsuya.
That would be great. That would be great.
Here's your cut roll.
I think it kind of misses the spirit of the holiday, but nevertheless,
my son's school last year did a haunted house for like the middle schoolers that I didn't get involved in. In hindsight, I wish I would have, because like one of the dads was telling me like he just wore a mask and scared the shit out of kids for 2 hours, and I'm like, that sounds like fun.
That's a nice afternoon.
That sounds like a blast. Like, you can do this and nobody's angry? Like, they want you to do it? Sure.
One day a year, you get to terrorize the young children.
I did read a book this week to my kids' class. The book that I wanted to read is an old, somewhat sketchy Disney book where Mickey Mouse goes to a haunted house, and there's a scene in it that gets a little spooky.
Yeah.
And then one of the guys says boo, and I slam the book shut when I read it to my kids.
Sure.
And they jump every time, and I just love it. And I'm like, I know I'm totally torturing them. I'm like, can I do this to the other kids in the class? We ended up not reading that book, but it would have been fun. I loved torturing the children.
There's a lot of stuff from the old Walt Disney,
Walt
Disney, the person days, where you're like, how are you showing this to kids? How are kids getting to see this?
Exactly.
Bambi's mother dies when the hunter kills her.
Yeah.
I've forgotten the story, but something like that.
Well, no, she OV'd on meth.
Is that right? I missed
OV'd. I can't speak anymore. She OV'd. I'm not going to talk anymore.
Let's skip all that and let's get to the
Let's
headlines.
make this a charades show.
Let's get to our headlines.
Let's do it.
Why do I have to yell it like that?
Because you're very excited on the transition.
Apple TV Plus just jacked up its prices again.
Yeah?
You just dug deeper into your wallet for Netflix, so no surprise that Apple TV is now demanding the same. Almost a year to the day after its first price hike since its 2019 launch, Apple TV Plus is increasing from $6.99 to $9.99 monthly. Annual plans are jumping from $69 to $99. That's a big price increase.
It is, but here's what I love. You are the first one to bitch and moan about a $9 Apple cable. How can they make a USB cable for $9?
Not $9. They're $16 or something like that.
Well, sure, you fill in the blank. I don't know.
It's a cable that matches a specification. They're all the same.
And you just bitch and complain about how expensive it is and the cable and the blah, blah, blah. Meanwhile, they raise the price of their streaming service like 40%. Sure. And you're like, oh yeah, I can't give them that money fast enough.
I really can't. This is the thing about this show. I have friends who are like absolutely in love with Apple, and I have friends who absolutely hate Apple.
Sure.
And on alternate weeks, I have things about Apple I absolutely love and things that I absolutely hate.
Sure.
Guaranteed, every week I'm going to upset at least half of my friends.
Sure. We call it I bipolar. Little lowercase I bipolar.
Anyway, so they're raising their prices, and you're right. I can't write that check fast enough.
And
I
zero
really
people are going to leave
Apple
the service
TV.
because it's probably underpriced as it is. And unfortunately, it looks like one of our favorite shows is Gonzo from there for a while. Jon Stewart.
Oh, totally. Not for a while. It's gone forever.
Forever. Yeah. Which was really a real bummer.
He was going to talk about China.
Yeah.
And he was going to talk about AI.
Yeah.
Two things Apple can't have him talk about.
Yeah.
And of course, his take on it was going to be either colored by them or he was not going to be on the channel.
Sure.
And he is now gone from the channel.
Yeah, that's a bummer.
That's actually, I think, pretty awful.
He should produce it himself.
I would love that. I don't know why more people don't want to own their own shows.
Sure.
You look at back to the day in United Artists, there were 4 artists who united: Charlie Chaplin, Mary Pickford, Douglas Fairbanks, and I think Anson Williams, and owned their own studio. And I can't imagine, I don't know, it's beyond me why more people don't do this and own their own content.
Is that the origin story of UA?
Maybe not the Anson Williams part.
I had no idea that was the origin story of UA. I mean, it makes sense. The name is United.
I don't remember who.
Huh, yeah. That makes a lot of sense.
Yeah. Are you going to tune into the video on October 30th, the Scary Fast event?
This is the new MacBook Pro announcement, I think, right?
MacBook Pro, but the interesting thing about it, it's the M3. I think it's going to be the M3.
Yeah.
M3 Pro and M3 Max.
I don't want to tell you I'm not excited about it, or I could just wait 8 months and get the M4.
Well, sure. There's that.
There is a little bit of me that has some, I don't know if I call it nostalgia for the M3 because I happen to own an M3 and I love the
car.
Something about the mark. Yeah, the car.
Yeah.
My attitude on this is like, especially with their phones, I just wait until I actually need it as opposed to being on the upgrade train.
Well, that's true of everybody. By the way, that's why the trouble the iPhone 15 is having is people are waiting to buy it. There's no rush to go out to your store and buy it because your current phone works fine. So their sales are really slow.
I realize the numbering is confusing to you because it increments virtually by one every single release.
Yeah,
that's
I'm not
hard.
good at that.
It'd be easier if they called it upside down cake or tiramisu.
That would be great.
Some sort of pineapple sherbet, and then you'd be fine.
They're alphabetized.
Ice cream cake, pistachios.
IJKLMN. It's exactly like hurricanes. By the way, we're on hurricane. This scared the crud out of me the other day. We're on Hurricane Otis.
Otis, like the elevator company?
Okay, forget that for a moment. Count that out. That's like hurricane. That's named storm number 18.
Yeah.
We in an average year have 10 named storms.
Okay.
And we're on number 18.
Wait a minute, hold on.
Crazy.
They don't restart the naming on the calendar year, right?
No, on June 1st.
Is that true?
100% true.
They restart to A?
Of course they do.
Every year?
Of course they do. You're literally counting named storms. We normally have around 10 in an average year. We are on 18 this year.
Because if you did that, you would never get to the later letters in the alphabet. All the storms would be like...
And most years you don't. By the way, once they become famous like Andrew, they retire the name.
Yeah, you have to.
They don't reuse it.
Yeah. I always assumed they just incremented letters and just repeated like an endless loop.
It's for the hurricane season that year.
I had no idea. I think you're wrong.
Well, there's a first for everything.
So
Otis is the 18th named storm of this hurricane season. And by the way, it's going to hit land probably as a category 4 or 5. It went from a tropical storm to a category 5 very quickly.
I think I want to use my challenge card on this. I'm so confused. Well, this implies that you're right.
I know that disorients you.
All right, I have no choice but to go with you. Why do hurricanes have female names?
Because they're hurricanes, not hurricanes.
Are you going to be here all week, or is this just a one night? Is this just a Thursday show?
I can do the Dixie Riddle Cup jokes.
Am I the opening act for you? Is this how our show at the Canyon Club, where we sold 8 tickets?
Yes.
Is that what this is going to be?
NASA is struggling to open its asteroid sample container. Did you hear about this?
Yeah, this is a ridiculous story.
The sample container that came back to NASA's Johnson Space Center.
Yep.
It has like dust and things on the outside, which is what you see the pictures of.
Yeah, this is the container where they collected asteroid dust, right? Or asteroid
debris, right?
Debris.
They can't open the sampler inside.
Have they tried like knocking it on the edge of the counter?
Well, that's what I was going to suggest. They should run it under hot water, maybe.
I mean, I've seen the infomercials. You get like one of those little rubber sheets to put on it, and then you just twist it off. When they get it open, do you think the lid pops up and goes bing?
I think it makes that sound.
Does it make that sound?
I'm sure it's vacuum sealed.
Great.
I think there's someone at NASA right now who's yelling at the top of his head, "Who torqued down on the screws?"
Just give it to Dad. Which one of you assholes put this on with an air wrench? This is a really fascinating problem to me because there's a couple things I think going on here. One is they've already collected samples that were like on top of the container where they didn't expect to have samples.
Right,
they collected dust, which is fascinating.
But it makes sense that there would be dust there if you think about how it collects.
Sure. And by the way, being a guy who's somewhat mechanically inclined and have worked on all sorts of things, home improvement projects, cars, all sorts of shit.
Sure.
I have rounded out my fair share bit of screws, right?
Oh, sure.
I try not to do it much anymore, but it still happens.
Right.
I would not want to be the poor fucker that rounds out the screw.
Oh, for sure. Right? What are we going to do? Send up another one of these things and get some new samples because we can't get the screws
Send
off?
it back to Amazon and ask for a refund? What are you going to do? I don't exactly know. Couldn't open it. 3 stars.
3 stars.
I don't know what to do in this particular scenario.
Is the silly
so
shit.
what I read this article, they're talking about actually drilling out the fastener, which is what you would do in a normal circumstance. However, the problem with doing that in my mind is when you drill out the fastener, you make a bunch of dust. So you've got to extract that dust.
Contaminates, right. They can't do that.
So I don't know. They got like a little vacuum and
they'll do it in an extremely careful way. I mean, NASA does things really well.
Of course.
They'll figure it out.
This is where you get into some of the real fun stuff with NASA and JPL. Like they have to solve these problems that are truly one-of-one problems, right?
For sure.
Like I think about even the Hubble, but you talk about like the James Webb and even all this stuff we put into space to collect things.
Sure.
Now that we're bringing materials back in a quasi-autonomous manner from
asteroids,
things floating around the universe is just
an asteroid that's going to collide with us.
Mind-boggling. Well, don't tell everybody that. I want them to listen to the show. You tell them no asteroids are going to collide. Do you think nonsense is going to be the high on their list? Like, sorry, we're all dying next week.
That particular asteroid is on a collision course for Earth. That's part of why we got the sample of it.
Do we know when?
2182, but I think it's going to be fairly easy to deflect. It turns out it doesn't take too much to deflect something in space. Well, just the slightest glint of force, and you've changed the trajectory enough. If you go out far enough,
how do you deflect?
Change the trajectory enough that now it doesn't.
You don't go up there with Aerosmith blaring, and you bring Bruce Willis, and they drill a hole into it and blow it up. Is that what it was?
Absolutely unnecessary. It turns out.
It makes for good TV, though. It makes for a good film.
It's great for movies, not so necessary to do.
What's the plan for deflecting this thing? Like a giant slingshot?
Literally, they will knock it off course far, far away. A tiny, like not even a degree, a fraction of a degree off course.
Okay.
And it will be way out of the way now of hitting the Earth.
Interesting.
I don't work at NASA. I don't really know the reality of how they're going to do it.
Yeah, trust me, I know. I've met you.
It will not be, Armageddon or whatever that big dramatic film thing of the asteroid that you have to. It'll be nothing like that.
Do we know how big this asteroid is? I'm asking a bunch of questions we don't know the answers to.
I believe it's about the size of the Empire State Building.
All right. Well, so what do we know about this? They can't open the container. Should we go help them? Do you think they need our help?
It's NASA. I'm pretty sure they're good.
I'm just afraid that when they do finally get it open, they're going to drop it.
Oh, all the dust is going on the floor. Absolutely.
Good news, director of NASA. We got the container opened. Bad news, I spilt it all over the fucking kitchen floor.
Oops.
Yeah, oops is right.
Millions of Americans have cognitive decline and don't know it. So going from can't open the jar now to can't remember the jar. Millions of Americans and their doctors are in the dark when it comes to early cognitive decline, according to new research from the University of Southern California, our school. A study out this week suggests that most general physicians are vastly underdiagnosing mild cognitive impairment.
Basically, USC like, well, we're shitty at football now, so how about we start doing some
good research.
Let's go do some research. Maybe we're better at that.
I think this is actually a serious study about serious cognitive decline, not the dorky stuff we're talking about.
Sure.
But it's kind of interesting that the doctors are underdiagnosing that.
Well, yeah, they said something like 92% of mild cognitive impairment goes undiagnosed.
Do your puzzles. You need to keep your brain. You need to keep sharp every day. Do you do, mental things
Well,
that keep you
I think I know
sharp?
the answer to this, but which ones are your favorites?
Oh, well, I do Connections, New York Times. There's a couple New York Times.
You
ones
don't
that I quite
do
like.
Connections. You do Connections in a way that is embarrassing for all other humans.
Why? Why is that?
Because you do
I
them
do Connections like everybody does Connections.
negative. You do them perfectly every time, and you manage the order at which you complete each word set.
I get them wrong. So you're right. I do try
Do you
to
not send me the wrong ones? I always assume when you don't send me one during the day, you just got it wrong. That's always my assumption.
I try to do the colors. I try to do purple, blue, green, yellow, which is the hardest to the easiest. The way I do that is I solve all 4 categories before I commit them to the computer.
Okay.
So I'm guessing, I'm only guessing what the hardness of the category is.
This has been episode 43 of Overachievers, everybody. Thank you for coming to our show, where we can't just do the fucking puzzle. We have to do it in the right color order.
And I get them wrong sometimes, and that frustrates me, but it's because it's easy for me or hard for me, but not the same for the editors of the New York Times, clearly.
Us mere mortals, when we, quote, get them wrong, it means we didn't finish the puzzle. For you, you don't do it in the color order that you want. You're like, oh, I didn't get purple first.
I really like that game.
I'm in your wake. I'm trying to catch up. I'm not sure I'm going to get there. So you do Connections. What else do you do? You used to do Wordle.
My son wrote a game that's like Wordle, only it's 6 letters instead of 5.
Okay.
And I love that.
Yeah.
It's so much fun.
A lot more words.
And the words, there's no editorial board choosing the words.
Sure.
The words are literally drawn randomly.
Randomly out of a dictionary?
Try it sometimes. It's 6lets, the number 6lets.com. Really fun.
You don't do crosswords much.
My dad does 2 crosswords every day, the New York Times crossword. And
that's crazy.
And it's absolutely remarkable. It's at his age, he is 89, and he is just stellar at crossword puzzles.
I've always been envious of people that can do crossword puzzles because I feel like there's such a command of the vocabulary.
And pop culture.
And then this is one of the many ways I know that I'm getting old, is because now I'm like, oh yeah, I'll knock out a crossword every now and again. And I'm just like, I'm set on an easy level. If it's anything harder than easy, I can't do it.
Off-duty Alaska Airlines pilot said he took magic mushrooms 48 hours before allegedly trying to shut down the plane engines.
Okay, first of all, I really don't want this to turn into the magic mushrooms bad segment.
I wasn't doing that. This is what happened. He took magic mushrooms. He was sitting in a deadhead seat. He was literally sitting in the
jump seat,
in the cockpit.
Yeah.
In the jump seat. Right. And he jumped up and started futzing with the controls. He wanted to turn off the airplane in midair.
Okay, well, to be fair, he was in the jump seat and he just thought you're supposed to jump out of the jump seat. Okay, so let's not throw him under the bus for that. But this is a crazy story. So this was earlier this week, and the crew said that he gave, quote, 0 indication of anything wrong during the initial stages of the flight.
Sure.
The pilot said they were just chatting away about the weather and various types of airplanes.
Having a good old time.
Which, by the way...
He's a pilot for like Alaska Airlines. He's a real pilot.
A real pilot. And if you're chatting about the weather and various types of airplanes, you might like the show Nonsense, because I feel like that's pretty much all we do on this show is the weather and various airplanes. So I'm going to try to get him on as a listener, but that's when he gets out of jail, of course.
He's never going to fly again, either as a passenger or a pilot.
He may never be on a plane again. Anyway, so they're flying over Oregon, and the first officer sees this guy. His name's Emerson. They see him throw his headset across the cockpit and exclaim, quote, "I am not okay." That's what this guy, that was his intro, right? His intro was, "I am not okay." He then grabbed the 2 red engine shutoff handles, tried to pull them. The pilot said that they grabbed his wrist, they physically engaged him for an estimated 25 to 30 seconds, and then he quickly, quote, quickly settled down. So it doesn't sound like it was much of a struggle. It sounds like this guy...
25 to 30 seconds, that's not nothing.
This is the part of the story that I actually kind of enjoy the most, if you can, in this story. The pilots asked him to leave the cockpit, and he then walked to the back of the airplane. So it sounds like he pretty much excused himself.
Voluntarily left
Voluntarily, right? Yeah. The pilot in question, not the pilot of the plane, the pilot who was in the jump seat, he said to the flight attendant, quote, "You need to cuff me right now or it's going to be bad."
Sure.
No Which problem. Tells me...
Happy to cuff you.
Right?
Absolutely.
This guy seemed to be putting out some sort of energy of like, I know something's wrong. I'm not in full control of my faculties. Please lock me up.
Please stop me.
He did say that he turned towards an emergency exit door and tried to grab the handle, which hopefully as everybody in the show knows.
Before or after he told the flight attendant to cuff him?
I think it was after. I think it was after he was cuffed. I think he got up after he was cuffed. And then in an interview with an FBI agent, one of the flight attendants said that she overheard him say that, quote, I messed everything up, and that he, quote, tried to kill everybody. Right. So
how many people were on that plane?
80. Well, they gave him 83 counts of attempted murder, so I'm going to guess
that's
83
what I was wondering.
people.
Is this 83
84 if you count
murder?
him.
That's exactly what I wondered.
Emerson, the pilot, said that he had a nervous breakdown and that he hadn't slept in 40 hours, that he felt dehydrated and tired, and that he, quote, "I thought I was dreaming and I just wanted to wake up." And that's why he pulled the handles, which I get that. Like, I don't think this dude just made up that story to cover his actions.
Sure. I don't think that's going to wake you up. I think that's going to give you a permanent sleep.
That's sleepy time. Yeah, permanent sleepy time.
Yeah. Good for the other 2 pilots for being on top of the situation.
I mean,
by the way, they handled it so well. The crew handled it so well that most of the other people on the plane apparently didn't even know anything was happening.
There was one passenger that said he slept through the whole thing, and that most people said they just thought there was a medical emergency and that it was no big deal. That's impressive that they were able to manage
that's an impressive crew
that well on that plane. So there was that Swiss Air flight a couple of years ago where there was the first officer of the flight, when the pilot left to go use the restroom or go use the lavatory, he locked him out and then flew the plane to the side of a mountain.
Oh man.
Yeah, that was a bad story. And the policy that changed after that is that they would never leave one person in the cockpit by themselves. You'd always have a second person.
The flight attendant comes in, or what happens?
Yes.
Oh, okay.
If you've got a single flight crew, if the pilot needs to take a leak, the pilot comes out and the flight attendant goes in and locks themselves in with the first officer, or vice versa.
While we're on the story of airships, Google founder's airship gets FAA clearance.
Yes.
Do you know about this story?
Yes, this is Sergey's LTA, right?
Pathfinder 1, which is an enormous blimp.
This thing's massive. I think it's like 120 meters long. Like it's not small, as all dirigibles should be. But it's like titanium and carbon fiber. It has like almost 100 welded titanium hubs and like 300 carbon fiber tubes to make.
How much fun would it be to go floating around in that thing?
Oh my God, I'd love to go float around in a blimp. Are you kidding?
That's so cool.
Do they still have the Goodyear blimp down in Torrance? Whenever I drive down and see that thing off the 405, it's always like the only thing that makes me happy being on the 405 is seeing the blimp.
It's in the air all the time before Laker games, and occasionally it comes over the Dodger Stadium.
Quick aside, does it make you happier or sadder, more sad, if the team that knocked you out of the playoff contention wins the World Series?
It makes me less sad. It makes me feel
less
like,
sad, right?
They
were going to win anyway, so you might as well steamroll over them. Okay, I just want to make sure that
I yell to them, go get those, whoever the next team is that they're playing. You root them on.
So LTA, which is Sergey Brin's company. By the way, LTA stands for lighter than air, I think, which is fantastic. Yeah. So they got like approval to basically parade this thing around Moffett Field at like low level flights. Like I think no more than 1,500 feet.
1,500 feet, right?
Which is not high, but I mean, again, you got to start somewhere.
Well, you don't want to go too high, or you get where you actually have commercial flight.
Well, yeah, of course. And I don't know if this is still true, but years ago, because Google was willing to make an investment in Moffett Field, they got the right to land their planes at Moffett Field, which pissed off every billionaire on the peninsula, because they're like, oh, we got to go to SFO or San Carlos to take off.
We don't.
Google just go out their back door, because Moffett Field basically touches their campus.
Yeah.
They would just go out their back door and jump on I think they have a 767 they still fly. That's a Google plane.
Oh my word.
It's crazy.
He's already got Pathfinder 3.
Yeah. That thing's like 180 meters long.
Massive.
For our American listeners, that's like 2 football fields.
Microsoft now thirstily injects a poll when you download Google Chrome. This is on Windows.
I love this story.
I hate these things. This is the thing that makes me so happy to not be on Windows. If you download Chrome to use as your browser, they put up a poll that says, can you please take a minute and tell us why you're trying another browser?
With a little frowny emoji. Why are you leaving? Do you think it does this if you try to download Linux as well?
It's none of your business why I'm going to another browser. I'll go to any browser I want. Stop injecting things into my new browser.
If you download like a Linux live CD, it's like, why are you leaving Windows? I'm not so grumpy that they're doing I wouldn't call this injection. But
don't slow down my computing experience. I do not want to take your survey. I don't want your little ads popping up on my...
Sir, with all due respect, if your position is, I don't want you to slow down my computer, then, and you've made it
off of Windows.
I was going to say, you should start with the Windows OS to begin with.
I don't have Windows.
That's really where the problem lies. I think if you've made it as far as Edge, you are not seeing the forest through the trees, my friend.
Enough with the headlines. Up next, we'll take a look at high-speed rail.
There's not even any tracks laid yet, right?
We'll discuss that. Have you ever taken a ride on true high-speed rail?
I believe that is a strong no.
Oh, you haven't? You've never been to Europe and ridden on high-speed rail, or Japan and ridden on high-speed rail?
I don't think it was any. I mean, Paris, yes, but I don't think it was like the real intercity high-speed rail. The one that goes from
France is where I've done it. It would say TGV. That's their high-speed rail.
Man, it's been a minute. I think the answer is probably no. Definitely not the ones in Japan. I've always been eager. We should do a field trip there and go on those.
I've never done those either, but that's some of the oldest high-speed rail. The one in France, 320 kilometers per hour, which is 200 miles per hour for those of you in the United States, Liberia, and Myanmar. Just helping you out where I can.
The UK still uses miles per hour. I think most of the UK
in the dumb cities.
Yeah. The dumb cities. Sir, I don't want to get the hate mail that we're going to get. Can you please just represent this yourself?
France has 2,600 kilometers of dedicated high-speed lines.
Okay.
And it's really a plush experience. The ride is absolutely, first of all, it feels like you're riding on air. The cars are so nice.
That's impressive.
It's a really deluxe experience.
And the fact that those things can do 320 kilometers per hour. So you said 200 miles per hour.
200 miles an hour, yeah.
And be plush and comfortable. Meanwhile, me trying to get into the city from SFO on the fucking BART doing 45 miles an hour. I feel like I'm on a wagon coming across the Sierra Nevadas with the Dahmer. It's terrible.
Bart's a little old.
For Christ's sake, put differentials in the train already. Like when you come across that turn.
The cars are old. The cars are old. Yeah, they want to get 30 years life out of their cars, which is not a great idea. Things change.
The new cars, they put the same cars in.
You've been on the red line cars.
I have.
Those cars are lovely.
Well, except for the pee smell, but otherwise, yeah, they're great.
Well, you're going on a different car that I'm going on. You're going on the public urinal car.
Yes, I'm on the one.
Which is
I get
nice.
on one that says men. Should I not do that?
That's probably
I'm like, oh, men. I assume I should get on the men car.
The U.S. has no high-speed rail. They have none. I
thought we had it in Florida now.
It is not true high-speed rail. I'm talking about things that are going 200 miles an hour.
Oh, see, you were trying to
in Florida is nowhere. They call it high-speed rail.
Sure.
By the way, the same thing is going to be true of the diesel power. You can't really have high-speed rail that's running diesel.
Sure.
The same thing is true of the Los Angeles to Las Vegas line.
Okay.
That will also not be true high-speed rail.
What, it'll just be like medium speed rail?
I don't know what you call it, but it's
low speed rail?
100 plus, low 100 miles an hour, somewhere in there. It's not speedy. The high-speed rail is a different animal.
What's really keeping us in the U.S. from having true high-speed rail?
Politics.
Politics,
and it's money in politics,
Sure.
and it's specifically airlines. I will come to that in 1 second.
Oh, interesting.
Hang on standby.
Okay.
I was saying we have no high-speed rail in the U.S.
Okay.
Meanwhile, China has built more than 40,000 kilometers of high-speed rail in the last 20 years.
Wow.
Tracks designed for speeds above 350 kilometers per hour, 217 miles per hour.
That's crazy.
That's a lot of track they've put down.
Yeah.
To state the obvious, electric rail is environmentally friendly, much greener than cars burning gas, and much, much greener than airplanes.
Okay.
It also reduces ground traffic and air traffic congestion.
Okay.
It should be a no-brainer.
Okay, but there's always a but.
Yet there's only one high-speed rail project under construction in all of America, the California High-Speed Rail.
Okay.
That project will turn the trip from San Francisco to Los Angeles into 2 hours and 40 minutes. And that's important to note because San Francisco to Los Angeles is the second busiest flight route over the entire United States.
Wow, I did not know that.
Yeah.
SFLA is the second busiest route in the U.S.?
Second busiest flight route.
Wow.
California started talking about high-speed rail in the 1980s, about the same time Europe was building out its high-speed rail.
Sure.
But we are home to, and therefore responsible for, the California condor, the gray wolf, the San Joaquin kit fox, the desert slender salamander, Franklin's bumblebee, the Channel Islands dwarf fox, the Sierra Nevada red fox, an actual man named Red Fox, the El Segundo blue butterfly.
Okay, with the exception of the man named Red Fox, every one of those is delicious. They're all delicious.
And other threatened creatures.
Okay.
So it wasn't until 1996 that then Governor Pete Wilson and the California legislature created the California High-Speed Rail Authority to create and plan for a high-speed rail system.
So wait, you bring up all those animals because they're all opposed to high-speed rail? All those animals want low-speed rail?
They all vote no. They all vote no on the high-speed rail, which is interesting.
They don't want to be thrusted into the 19th century. There's that big chunk of land that was like half developed right at the exit of LAX, like when you're going off of the, like they were going to make a neighborhood out of, but there's some endangered species there. It was either like butterflies or like a ground squirrel or some shit.
The El Segundo blue butterfly is probably
what it
you're
is?
talking about. Yeah.
Is it really called the El Segundo blue butterfly?
We're really cognizant of those things, which is a great thing. We should be.
Sure.
I mean, that's actually 100% a great thing. It does slow down projects, but that's fine. You want to live in a state that is thoughtful.
Yes.
That's not a bad thing.
I love Red Fox.
It wasn't until 2008 that voters approved Proposition 1A, authorizing that system to be built, laying out a route connecting major population centers of the state and the sale of $9 billion in bonds to buy the bulk of the necessary land.
Okay.
The $9 billion raised on a project estimated at the time to cost $45 billion.
Okay.
We knew $9 billion wasn't enough to fund the entire project, just enough to get it started. To date, the project has never been fully funded. In current dollars, it's now estimated to cost in the neighborhood of $128 billion. That is, if full funding were available today.
Wow.
Obviously, as time passes, inflation alone will increase that number. For reference, today's U.S. dollar is worth 34% less than it was in 2008 when this all began.
Wow.
Back in 2008, the high-speed rail project was very popular. In fact, there was strong bipartisan support of high-speed rail, literally until April 16th, 2009. That was the day President Obama announced he foresaw an America where 80% of Americans could be connected by high-speed rail.
Oh, no.
What we need then is a smart transportation system equal to the needs of the 21st century. A system that reduces travel times and increases mobility. A system that reduces congestion and boosts productivity. A system that reduces destructive emissions and creates jobs. What we're talking about is a vision for high-speed rail in America. Imagine boarding a train in the center of a city. No racing to an airport and across a terminal, no delays, no sitting on the tarmac, no lost luggage, no taking off your shoes. Imagine whisking through towns at speeds over 100 miles an hour, walking only a few steps to public transportation, and ending up just blocks from your destination. Imagine what a great project that would be to rebuild America.
In that instant, all Republicans' support vanished. Every dollar is now contested. The stop-and-go build-out for a mega project like California's high-speed rail is extraordinarily expensive. Those people who, after the voters gave the project a green light, who keep trying to stop the project, saying it's oh so expensive, are literally the ones making it oh so expensive.
Big surprise.
The construction, which finally began in 2015, is constantly stalled by lawsuits, vetoes, politics, more lawsuits, lack of funding, and oh, did we mention lawsuits?
Sure.
There were over $1 billion worth of lawsuits before any steel went into the ground.
Thanks, Obama.
Theoretically, 85% of that construction will be paid for by California, 15% by the federal government. So far, the project has spent under $10 billion. Obviously, the sooner we build it, the less it will cost, but you can't build faster without money.
Sure.
As for lawsuits, to date, the High-Speed Rail Authority has won every lawsuit filed against it. 3 remaining are in settlement discussions.
Okay.
Unlike China's Central Authority, in California, everybody gets a voice, and that's a good thing.
Sure.
The environmental review process in California is one of the most advanced and careful in the world. The cost of it on this project alone was $1.3 billion.
Wow.
All roughly 800 kilometers, 500 miles of the project should be environmentally cleared by the end of 2023.
Okay, so we're close.
The first segment of track is in the San Joaquin Valley, connecting 3 of the fastest growing cities in California, Merced, Fresno, and Bakersfield. It's 191 kilometers, 119 miles long. It's the cheapest segment to be built and should be operational by 2030. The danger of opening this segment first is the low populations of those cities. Fresno, the largest, has 1 million people. Merced, the smallest, has 90,000.
Wow.
You're spending a lot of money for a small number of people to go really fast. And even if a huge percentage of the population uses the line daily, it'll look like the project won't ever be worth its cost.
Sure.
It's not until the San Francisco area, population 8 million, and the Los Angeles area, population 13 million, are connected that the project actually makes sense. I don't know how many people in Merced are dying to get to Bakersfield, but that number can't be big. Certainly not as big as the number of people who could live in Fresno and work in San Francisco or Los Angeles.
Sure.
When the San Joaquin Valley sections begin operations, watch as it's attacked for the high cost of giving a few people really fast transportation, ignoring that the rest of the project will increase ridership way over 20x. People should also know that when fully connected, the line will vastly change property values in the San Joaquin Valley, which can now become a viable bedroom community for San Francisco and Los Angeles.
Totally.
The central part of the state, which hasn't enjoyed a fraction of the economic benefits of California's big city industry, will suddenly join the party.
Yeah, absolutely.
Now, regarding funding, the high-speed rail project is entitled to receive 20% of the revenue from the California Cap and Trade Program. In 2023, the California High-Speed Rail Authority is projecting to receive $706 million in cap and trade revenue. This represents about 10% of the authority's total budget for the year. California High-Speed Rail Authority is also seeking $2.8 billion in federal funding for the project in 2023. To put that in perspective, the F-35 fighter jet program will cost $1.7 trillion to buy, operate, and maintain. Those federally funded jets are being built in Fort Worth, Texas. Talk about giving a small number of people really, really fast, expensive transportation.
No shit.
The F-35 doesn't have an enormous commercial.
I'm sorry. Sometimes my headphones don't work correctly. Did you say 1.7 trillion fucking dollars?
$1.7 trillion.
Jesus. Like, now you're in the 4 comma club.
But they're fun planes. Whee!
Yes.
That we hope we never have to use.
They're very fun planes.
Yeah, you could put a lot of high-speed rail in the country for that.
Sure.
The F-35, however, doesn't have an enormous commercial airline lobby fighting tooth and nail against it.
Sure.
Since 1989, Texas legislatures have been wanting to build a high-speed line to connect Dallas, Fort Worth, Austin, Houston, and San Antonio. But that project was buried by Southwest Airlines, who knew that railway would render their highly profitable short-hop flights among those cities unnecessary. And the commercial airline interests don't just fight high-speed rail in the U.S. these days. They do it all over the world.
Sure.
Keep in mind, San Francisco to Los Angeles is the second busiest flight route over the entire United States. It makes sense that the airlines are fighting this with all they have.
Yeah.
One of the cooler things about the California high-speed rail is that it will be powered by renewable electricity. In fact, part of the project's cost is a big solar farm large enough to power the entire line.
Wow.
445 acres of solar farm in Kern County, United States.
Wow.
The system will require a battery storage capacity of approximately 1,000 megawatt hours. This will make it one of the largest battery storage systems in the world.
That's a lot of batteries.
This solar farm will make California's high-speed rail system one of the most environmentally friendly transportation systems in the world. Construction is expected to begin on the solar farm in 2024 and be completed in 2026. Anyone with modern solar panel on their roof can tell you it's really fun not getting a power bill.
Sure.
Average track speeds will be 350 kilometers per hour. Later, there will be blended segments consisting of upgraded existing tracks in Los Angeles and San Francisco. It'll run at 180 kilometers per hour. Los Angeles and San Francisco are roughly 560 kilometers apart. And as mentioned, the trip will take less than 2 hours and 40 minutes. The completed system will consist of roughly 1,300 kilometers of track and will include 3 tunnels longer than 10 miles each.
Holy shit.
However, imagine with no traffic jams, no slowdowns, San Francisco to San Jose in 30 minutes. San Jose to Los Angeles in 2 hours and 10 minutes. Sacramento to Los Angeles in 2 hours and 20 minutes. 24 stops in all. Who doesn't want to visit San Diego without traffic and airport security?
I mean, I'm just so negative because of our current train system that's terrible. 2 hours 40 from LA. Like that actually gets me.
What train system do you take? Are you taking the Amtrak in California?
Yeah, the couple, like when I take it now and again to San Diego and I'm doing 12 miles an hour through LA.
Yeah, it's slow. It's slow.
Watching butterflies pass me. I'm like, why are we doing this?
Also, this food service, broadband, onboard entertainment systems, because modern trains are truly luxury experiences.
Sure. Yeah. 2 hour 40 from LA to SF. If that's real, like meaning I get on, the doors close, and I'm there in 2 hours.
The only way it'll go beyond that is, and this depends on the rehab sections of track that they are actually rebuilding. It could be as much as 15% shorter. It will not go longer.
Why could it be shorter?
Depending on how well they're able to build out those LA systems in San Francisco, the existing track that they have to build up. By the way, some of that is redundant with an Amtrak line that it's going to get rid of. They're going to displace the Amtrak system and replace it with the high-speed rail system.
I mean, I'm all for that.
Makes perfect sense, yeah.
Interesting.
Track and surface systems likely will begin going down next year. Track, by the way, is the last part of construction. You will hear people try to deride the California project by saying that not a single mile of track has been laid yet. Well, yeah, you need the platforms, bridges, grade separations, and so on before you can begin laying track.
There's not one goddamn ticket machine even installed yet.
Exactly.
You haven't even hired any engineers, you fucking idiots.
No one has frosted the cake because the cake hasn't been baked yet.
Totally.
When California built the Golden Gate Bridge, the constant comment on it was a bridge no one would ever use.
Yep.
Have you been on the bridge in the last 80 years?
More than once.
It gets used.
It does get used.
Even if you don't ride the entire California track, a reasonable and reliable commute from Merced to San Francisco or from Bakersfield to Los Angeles will vastly improve the state. The only thing I would love to change about all of it, if I had a wand and could change everything, I don't want to stop and pay $10 to go over the Golden Gate Bridge. Why not just put it as part of California taxes? Same thing with this high-speed rail.
Sure.
It's going to be whatever they said it was going to be, $50. It's probably going to be $85 or, closer to $100 by the time they're done to take the ride from Los Angeles to San Francisco. Let's just make it free. What's the benefit here? Why not just have taxpayers broadly paying for this? It's going to benefit all of us.
Well, yeah. I mean, you're penalizing the guy in Tahoe that's never going to take it or whatever. I don't know.
He doesn't have to take it. He benefits from the economic activity that it will create.
No, all right.
We all will vastly benefit from that. Plus, there's an elderly woman in Shasta, California, whose tax dollars are being spent to repair the 101.
No, I'm trying to understand your communistic views.
Yes, my communistic views are I don't want to stop at a toll booth.
Oh God, I mean, I think you could get everybody in the Bay Area to glom onto that.
Yeah,
I tease, but all of the Central Valley is just going to absolutely explode with this thing. Right?
It will explode. Yeah, absolutely. It basically spreads around the coastal California wealth. You will hear the question asked a lot about the California high-speed rail project. Yeah. Will it break even?
Okay.
It's interesting we even ask that question.
Yeah, sure.
We don't ask that question of things like freeways.
Sure.
If the utility value is there, why should we care? Literally, putting people on the roads in lost productivity due to traffic jams and things like that is something like $80 billion a year. Apply that number to the railway system, and now you break even in 5 seconds.
I mean, folks that like to be grumpy about the Postal Service are like, it doesn't even make money. And it's like, well, first of all,
they design it not to.
Is it supposed to make money? I thought it was
not.
I thought it was just supposed to be a service. I thought it was the goal.
It's supposed to break even.
And if it's making money, what are you going to do with it? What? I don't understand.
What about safety? To date, Japan's Shinkansen bullet train has carried 6.4 billion passengers without a single accident.
That's crazy.
It began commercial service on October 1st, 1964.
What?
It has been a huge part of the country's economy.
Wait a minute. It's 60 years old and it's never had a
And
fatality?
it's never had a single accident.
That's insane.
Well, it's less insane when you go up to Fresno and see some of the construction on the California high-speed rail, and you will see you can't build a high-speed railway in a way that you can use your cow catcher.
Sure. Yeah, you're not going to. Yeah, well, I think at that point.
Not only will you blow up the cow, you'll blow up the entire train. You can't go 200 miles.
It's not called a cow catcher on a high-speed train. It's called a cow orbiter. I think is what they call it. It's just when you hit Betsy and she's just immediately an LEO hanging out with a bunch of Starlink satellites.
You can't have a street that crosses over the railroad tracks and two little wooden arms that come down and a thing that goes ding 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 railroad crossing. You can't have that. I mean, you have to have what they call it grade elevation or whatever it is. Basically, it's a bridge where either the road or the train is going over one or the other.
Yeah.
You can't have a thing that causes people to stop or potentially get hit.
Of course.
It's less of a miracle than you think that no one gets injured because they engineer these things so well.
Oh, no, of course. Yeah. I mean, I'm still kind of shocked that, I guess I shouldn't be shocked, but based on the experience we have in the U.S., even low-speed trains manage to run into each other all the time, right? We've talked about
because they don't have this kind of engineering, the engineering you need for high-speed rail.
Yeah, that's fascinating.
The rest of the world has or is getting high-speed rail. California, indeed the entire United States, should not be left behind.
I'm still grumpy that I still don't think it's fast enough. I feel like we could engineer a faster solution.
Average track speeds will be 350 kilometers per hour. There's nobody going faster than that.
That's pretty fast.
There'll be blended segments, which are upgraded as existing tracks in Los Angeles and San Francisco that will run at 180 kilometers per hour, but the bulk of it will be 350 kilometers per hour.
You are slowly converting me into a believer. I love rail.
It's not going to be something that I get to enjoy much of. I will be 70 before the first segment is usable.
Okay.
The first segment from Los Angeles is usable.
I'll still wheel your ass out there.
Once they finish that, they're going to take it all the way down to San Diego, but that's phase 2.
Sure.
Which I would really enjoy that if that were the case. I would love to get down to San Diego in no time and have lunch. By the way, I would like to get up in the morning, climb onto a train with no hours of security, take a little nap, at 6 a.m. on a train and wake up and play all day in San Francisco, maybe go see a baseball game, have some nice food, climb back on the train and come home. How wonderful would that be?
Yeah.
That's not even like the primary use of this thing. That's just for yahoos who want to have a good time for, now and again.
Sure.
It's going to be for people who live in Merced who want to work in Los Angeles.
So I should go buy some dirt in Merced.
You might want to.
A lot of dirt.
All
right. Let's go shopping in Merced.
The hard part of this whole thing is politically, once they get Merced, Bakersfield, and Fresno connected, the big guns are coming out. The Southwest Airlines of the world will be trying to stop this thing as hard as they can. And they're going to say, look, 7 people take this train. Yes, because it doesn't go anywhere they need it to go yet. Have you ever been on a train ride that actually has a dining service?
Never like the real proper dining service.
Thing.
Yeah,
oh
table
my God,
service.
It's the greatest thing in the world.
Amazing.
It's unbelievably great.
Have you done that here or in Europe?
No, Europe.
I mean, I've been on a bunch of European trains, but with the cafe car you can go sit at and someone will come take your order.
Exactly.
But it's not the same. You're talking about where you have actual table linens,
white table linen.
No, I've never done that.
Incredible, and the food is great. And and you're like, wow, I'm on a train.
Yeah, exactly. And I'm moving.
There's a wonderful channel on YouTube.
Yeah,
I'll put a link to it of a guy who is showing aerial views and showing things like service roads that are being built and things like all the little progress that they're making. It's really cool.
Oh, of the high speed rail.
Of the California high speed rail.
Oh, that's super cool. Oh, that's interesting. So he's out there flying a drone just to capture what they're doing so
I think he's just using Google Maps. He's got updated satellite imagery.
Oh, interesting.
And he'll show you before and after, and this is what's happened, in the last quarter or whatever. And he just goes through the list. They're actually making a ton of progress considering that they're doing it on a shoestring.
Huh, that's fascinating. I had no idea.
What they really need is the legislature to be smart about this and say, the voters have approved this. Let's bite the bullet, write some big checks and get this thing up and running before it gets more expensive due to inflation.
Yeah, of course.
And due to other people's good ideas instead of, having big ideas like, hey, let's power the whole thing with a solar farm. Well, now you got to pay for a solar farm and batteries and all the rest of that, which is really cool and is the right thing to do, but not free.
Okay, you've slowly got me coming across as a conversion. The two of us at 70 on high speed rail is going to go something like this: slow down.
No way.
Just the whole time we're just grumpy because they're going too fast.
All right, we have to get out of here, but quickly before we do, have you seen or read anything good this last week?
Yes, absolutely.
Okay.
I think I've promoted this before on our show. I was in the car for quite some time driving this past weekend, and I finally got around to listening to some of the Acquired episodes. So these guys make, their content is 3.5 hours long per episode.
Oh, it's amazing. It's great.
And I listened to their recent Costco episode, which it's
deep dives into companies.
And they do a good job. It is dense information that they they are putting out.
But it's great.
It's really great. And I knew bits and pieces of the Costco story. This really helped give me the whole arc, which is fascinating, going back to the 40s with Fedco.
Sure.
And again, I kind of knew bits and pieces, but they really brought it all together. And I would strongly suggest you listen to that if you're a business dork or a Costco dork. And then I listened to the first episode on Nintendo. Again, I thought I knew a bunch of that story. I know a decent amount of it.
Yeah.
There's a whole bunch of shit I didn't know that they talk about, and it's really great. If you're even just a light gamer of yesteryear, listen to the Nintendo episode because it's really spectacular.
Especially if you're a kid who likes Mario.
If you're a Gen Xer, you're probably saying, Jumpman, Donkey Kong, Mario.
Oh, for sure.
But then as you get into the later generations, and this is what I think they've done such a great job of, is they've managed those characters into new products like Mario Kart, which is a whole totally different animal, right? So anyway, very, very cool and a very interesting listen. So give that a go. How about you?
I was lucky enough to see projected 40 years after the fact, Stop Making Sense, the 1984 Talking Heads concert film.
Oh, wow.
Newly restored.
Yeah. How was it?
It was amazing. It was so much fun. Directed by Jonathan Demme, shot over 4 nights at Hollywood's Pantages Theater in December of 1983. I have a number of friends who were there.
Wow.
One friend in particular who was there for 3 of the 4 nights.
No shit.
Yeah, when the Talking Heads were promoting their 1983 album, Speaking in Tongues. This film is considered by many critics to be one of the greatest concert films of all time and a cult classic. That was really fun.
So wait, are they re-releasing it?
Yeah, they've restored it.
And is it only in the theaters, or can I get it on one of the many services?
Theaters only, but restored in 4K.
So they restored it, but it's the same. It's a technical restoration, right? Like the edit's the same.
I don't know this for a fact, but my sense is from having heard it, they have AI'd a lot of the audio, broken it out on tracks, and made it really, really
remixed,
clean. I mean, it sounds really good.
And is this like the peak of the Talking Heads?
I don't know. I'm going to recommend something next week that's related, and
how do you already know?
And
that?
I'm not sure this is the peak of the Talking Heads.
Are you from the future?
I'll explain next week. I'm from the future.
So wait a minute, let me make sure I understand this. You already know what you're going to recommend next week. Meanwhile,
I do.
3 minutes before we record this episode, I'm like, fuck, what did I do? What have I seen? And then it's me on TikTok trying to look at fucking Jello mold videos to find something to talk about.
I didn't talk about it, but there is a good Jello mold video. I'm going to send you a link.
Is there really? Of course there is. They put the marshmallows in the Jello. I'm very excited to see that. If you can tell me where to find it, I would like to watch that at very loud volume.
That's the episode.
Thank you for joining us for all this nonsense, a truly terrible podcast from our awful company. Visit us on the web at nonsense.productions. I'm Skittle.
I'm Jeff Parker.
If you like this program, please follow, download, subscribe, and like at Apple, Google Podcasts, Amazon Music, iHeartRadio, Spotify, our favorite Overcast, or wherever you get your podcasts from.
Podcastindex.org. Special thanks to our floor director, Patrick O'Neill. Happy Halloween, everybody.
We'll be every Thursday morning for more nonsense. Please join us. There's more, but I scrolled past it.